Well, good morning again. Thank you. I want to point out a contrast that I think you'll see on the Senate floor today when we talk about the tax relief and jobs bill. When the DFL was in charge of the state Senate in 2010, they passed a $39 billion budget with a $6 billion structural deficit. They left $266,000 in reserves when they did it, and they borrowed $1.3 billion by changing the school shift. Today we have a very different message because of the GOP-led Senate. Last year at this time we had a $5.2 billion deficit. We've talked about that. We now have a $1.3 billion surplus. We have a plan to repay the entire portion of the school shift that was done last year. Not only the $300 million that's already gone out, but the remaining $400 million in a bill to repay the shift. And we have a plan for tax cuts and increased jobs across the state of Minnesota. The bill today is about $100 million in tax cuts and tax relief to individuals, families, and businesses across the state of Minnesota. And I hope you won't lose that messaging. It's been a long time coming for tax cuts for the state of Minnesota. The bill does a couple of things, but the balance is carefully crafted. It's 2/3 income tax, individual income tax relief, and 1/3 business tax relief. It's about 1/3 property tax relief, and as I said, about 2/3 income tax relief. Specifically, 2/3 of the bill is the repeal of the marriage penalty, conformity to the federal provisions that allow for tax relief to married Minnesotans. There are married couples all across the country that have been able to take advantage of the federal relief that was passed and signed into law by President Obama. Unfortunately, Governor Dayton vetoed that relief last year, so it's not available for 2011, but it is still available for 2012, and we hope that the governor will consider signing that. It's very important relief that we should be taking advantage of. Beyond that, we have tax credits and incentives, including the angel investment tax credit. We have the military pay subtraction, which should encourage economic development in the state of Minnesota. We have property tax relief for businesses, the state general levy, which is about 30% of their property tax bills is paid to the state of Minnesota. We hope to eliminate that over time. They want us to plan out what it's going to look like for their tax burden in the state of Minnesota, and we think we can help with that. There's property tax relief for residents. Those folks that had any kind of a spike in their property taxes last year will be included in the program, targeted property tax relief, which is current law, but we will change it just slightly. If you've had a property tax increase of $100 plus 12% from one year to the next, the state provides a refund. Current law is 60%. We'll provide a 75% targeted refund. That's a permanent change. So the House has a one-year provision. We have a permanent change. And we think that that's a good way to address what remaining items there might be with the market value homestead credit. That would, if passed, would create a refund for Minnesotans before the end of this year, so they would be able to apply for that refund in August. There are additional great provisions in the tax bill. If you have questions about them, I'm happy to answer them. But I think that for our benefit and for the benefit of Minnesotans, I hope you'll identify the contrast from a DFL-led Senate to what we're trying to accomplish here in a GOP-led Senate. The priorities are very different. We have asked the state government commissioners and the governor to help us find the reductions in the state government budget to fund the tax relief and jobs bill. They absolutely have the wherewithal to do that with a $35 billion budget. They can help us find $100 million. To the extent that they can't, then we want to draw down the reserves. We want to give them every incentive to find these reductions. We shouldn't have to introduce bills and get fiscal notes in order to find reductions in a state government of this size. We want their cooperation, and we've asked for that cooperation. The last point I would make about this is we really don't need a big honeypot at the state of Minnesota. We really don't need to be hoarding money only to get into spending next year. It's a good thing to have a reasonable reserve. We all agree with that. But this bill would ask for $99 million seed money for economic growth. This would be a very good investment. It's not spending. I reject the notion that raising less money in revenues is actually spending. It's not. This would be an investment to encourage economic growth and to encourage activity, which then subsequently generates revenues. It would be a very good investment for the state of Minnesota.